The annual Push Convention International Women's Luncheon. Want to give a big shout out to the DJ playing all those very appropriate songs. Survivor, Sophisticated Lady, I'm a Winner, all of those wonderful songs. We are becoming inspired. I'm Cheryl Burton from ABC 7, Channel 7 News. #1 TV station in the city, in my hometown of Chicago. I want to let you all know I'm celebrating 27 years at ABC 7. And I'm grateful, I'm humbled, I feel blessed abundantly. And I want to send a special shout out to my crew, my ABC 7 women crew, and my general manager, John Idler. ABC 7, please recognize yourself in the building. We have a lot of fabulous, phenomenal, remarkable women at our table, and one extraordinary man, I think. Thank you so much. Well, this year's luncheon, of course, is featuring women who have broken the glass ceiling and continue to scatter the pieces. Women have come a long way, but we continue to have hurdles to overcome, but we're moving forward and upward. This luncheon here is for inspiration, motivation, and a continuance march of excellence. So welcome, and we're so glad you're here. Even the men, too. I'm looking at a table predominantly full of men. Hi, y'all. How you doing? We're glad you're here, too, at the Women's Lunch. Hey, Marlon. So at this moment, we cannot get started with eating without prayer and thanksgiving, of course. So all the way from Africa, be prepared to have your food blessed by Her Royal Highness Barbara Indahindakari from the Kingdom of Toro, Uganda.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let us bow our heads and pray. I'm standing in the corridors of history with humility yet honor to introduce to you the crowd that is here right now, the God of the universe, creator of heaven and earth, who holds the 7 stars in your right hand. We come to thank you for this day. We thank you for the Reverend Jesse Jackson. We thank you for the Rainbow Push Coalition. We thank you for those who have traveled worldwide, east and north, west and south. Father, bless our food right now as we're about to receive it. Bless everybody in this place. In Jesus' mighty name we've prayed. Amen.
Her Royal Highness, all the way from the Kingdom of Toro, Uganda, thank you so much for that prayer and blessing. At this time, it's my honor to introduce the dais guests. All of these women have shattered the glass ceiling in their own right. There are a couple of men here as well who helped these women shatter that glass ceiling. I'm going to list all of the names, and it'd be great if you all could hold your applause until we're done with everyone. Is that all right? All right. Are you ladies and gentlemen ready on this dais? C.K. Hoffler, attorney at law, C.K. Hoffler Law Firm, candidate for president of the National Bar Association. Honorable Susana Mendoza, the Illinois State Comptroller. Honorable Kim Fox, the Cook County State's Attorney. The Honorable State Representative Karen Camper, President, National Organization of Black Elected Legislative Women. The Honorable Sally Yates, former acting United States Attorney. The Honorable Sheila Jackson Lee, Congresswoman, United States House of Representatives, Texas, 18th District. The Honorable Dorothy Brown, the co-chair and the clerk of the City Circuit Court of Cook County, Illinois. The Honorable Mayor Bill de Blasio, Mayor of New York City and Democratic presidential candidate. Charlene Irene McCray de Blasio, the founder of Cities Thrive Coalition and First Lady of the City of New York. And the man who is responsible for every single one of the women in this room and men in this room. We stand on his shoulders. We've gotten to the ceilings to break them because we stood on the shoulders of his dreams, his vision, his creation, his determination, his loyalty, his steadfastness, his never giving up on equality. We are here because of him. The Reverend Jesse L. Jackson, Sr. And beside, around, on top, under, pushing forward, backwards, keeping them accountable. And the only reason he got here today is because of a gracious, beautiful, brilliant, brave, incredible, phenomenal, remarkable, sensational, intelligent, loving, caring. Yeah, baby, we talking about you. And she fine, too. Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, everybody. Let's give her a rounding applause and a standing ovation. And when your name is called, please stand for us. Everyone has already heard from the blessings of Her Royal Highness, Barbara Enda Hendekere from the Kingdom of Toro, Uganda. Next to her is Dr. Donna Leek, the co-chair and superintendent of CCSD 168 and the vice chair of Illinois State Board of Educations. The Honorable Vi Lyles, the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. The Honorable Stacey Abrams, the former Democratic candidate for the governor of Georgia. The Honorable State Senator Toy Hutchinson, president of the National Association of State Legislators. Did I pass over a man in the house, Mr. Marty King? Best known as Cindy's other half. The Honorable State Senator Toy Hutchinson, we said her name too. Then we have the Honorable, you have to say her name twice, she does it so nice. The Honorable Carrie Steele, President of the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. Commissioner Honorable Kimberly Lightford, the Senate Majority Leader of the Illinois Senate. Pearl Clark, Reggio's Pizza, retired. Yes, who hasn't had Reggio's in their lifetime? Peggy Montez, the president of the Bronzeville Children Museum. A legend, an icon is among us. Dorothy Lavelle, the president of the National Newspapers Publishers Association. Luanner Peters, the former deputy governor for the state of Illinois. The Honorable Katrina Thompson, the mayor village of Broadview, Illinois. The Honorable Sheila Chalmers Curran, the president of the village of Madison, Illinois. The Honorable Barbara McGowan, vice chairman of the Water Reclamation District. The Honorable Melissa Conyers Irvin, city treasurer of Chicago, newly elected. Alba Castillo Belin, the Community Stakeholder Relations for Coca-Cola Center. Bienvenido. Okay. Don't you say. Some of your friends who you love very much. Chanel, are you out there? I love this next woman, even though, you know, she makes fun of me. But my mama said when they make fun of you, they want to be you. That's why she has my name. I love her more than she knows. She is so bad in a great way, in a good way. The Senior Vice President of U.S. Strategic Community Alliance and Consumer Engagement at Nielsen, Cheryl Grace. The Honorable Karen Yarborough, the Cook County Clerk. The Honorable Maddie Hunter, State Senator. The Honorable Bobby Steele, retired President, Cook County Board of Commissioners.
These two doctors just came with the exercise.
Okay. The Honorable Mayor Edwina Perkins, the Mayor of Maywood, Illinois.
Call that name and this one.
Yep. Audrey Dubois Harris, a musical artist, is among us. And right next to Audrey is the prolific songbird. If she sings in your space, your life will never be the same. God has gifted her with an extraordinary voice. Singer, songwriter, musician, the incomparable Teresa Griffin. Prophetess Dr. Felice A. Binion, Liberty Temple Full Gospel, and CEO and President of the West Side Ministers Coalition. Also, Dr. Patrice Harris is in the house, the President of the American Medical Association. My neighbor growing up in childhood friend, 4 doors down on 83rd Street in Chatham, none other than Neva Lubin Johnson, Doctor, President of the National Medical Association. And hopefully you won't ever end up in his courtroom, but if you do, just smile and say, I love you, and you might get a better deal. Judge Mathis is in the house, everybody. I didn't do it. I'm innocent. And Alderman Stephanie D. Coleman is also joining us on the dais today. Now let's give an entire round of applause for one more person. I knew that was her. I knew she was here. Hey, girl. We are also blessed to have Juliana Malveaux up here on the dais, people. Always representing us. Thank you for what you do when you're on TV. I appreciate it, we appreciate it, and so do your viewers and listeners. So thank you for everything that you do. Now let's give a big round of applause for every single person here on the dais this afternoon. Right now, I want you all to take a look at the screens. There's a special presentation about women who have broken the glass ceiling, and following that, you will hear directly from Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, the chairperson of this luncheon, and an iconic figure, of course, is the wife of our founder. So let's give another round of applause and check out the video.
I've got my sister. I can feel her now. She may not be here, but she's still mine. I know. She still loves me. Got my house, it still keep the cold out. Got my chair when my body can't hold out. Got my hands doing good like they supposed to. Showing my heart to the folks that I'm close to.
We just put the biggest crack in that glass ceiling yet.
Take a deep breath. Gonna hold my head up. Gonna put my shoulders back and look you straight in the eye. Gonna flirt with somebody when they won't wait. I'm gonna sing out. I believe I have inside of me everything that I need for bountiful life. And all the love allowing me upstairs is tall as the tallest tree. I'm thankful for every day that I'm giving. Both with easy and hard ones, but most of all, I'm thankful for loving who I really am. I'm beautiful. Yes, I'm beautiful. I'm
Give two of our staff members, Alana Ford and Deshawn, a big round of applause. Come on out here. Come on, Alana, where are you? Where are you? Alana, I want you to see them before you go because they are hidden figures. They are hidden figures. That one was moving, and I sincerely appreciate it. To all of the distinguished, most powerful women on earth, look at yourselves. I have never felt so deeply moved and so uplifted as I have today to be in the midst of so much dignity, so much pride, so much possibility. To all of those of you who are here, may God bless you and thank you for always being here. To the boldest, the most imperfect, the most daring man I have ever met, Reverend Jesse Jackson, I thank you from the very depths of my heart for all that you have contributed to this world. I sincerely thank you, Jesse Jackson. Now, I had planned to say some things, but we're going to have a real-time problem here. But everything I do with God. I'm on God's side. I don't ask God to be on my side. I ask God that I am permitted to be on God's side. The chimes of time ring out the news, another day is through. Someone slipped and fell. Was that someone you? You may have longed for added strength, your courage to renew. Do not be discouraged. I have news for you. There is no secret what God can do. There is no secret what God can do. Once upon a time, early in our putting this program together, we would look for guest speakers, look for them. Now, look what God has delivered. They are in such great abundance, we have to choose them. People have asked me, well, who's going to speak? Who's going to be your guest speaker? We say we don't know. But we always accept those who ask us. We extend to many the invitation to come. And I apologize for the lack of attendance this time because some of them are still at the airport. One is still trying. I spoke with her earlier and asked that she not worry from Washington. But we're here to lean on each other's shoulder and support each other. This is where we pass out our cards and we network and try to continue to build for the underserved and for the locked out, the neglected, and for inclusion. I want to thank all of those supporters we have, our sponsors, who don't have to choose Rainbow Push Women's Luncheon to participate. But I want to ask you this special time, and I know you don't like passing out money to all the people who are going to see you, but I want the sponsors to stand so folks will know how kind and generous you have been to us. Would you please stand? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Thank you. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. May God continue to bless us, strengthen us, and may we continue to do God's will. Thank you.
All righty then.
Good afternoon. We gather at the most critical time. I want to express sincere thanks across the years. This lunch has been the biggest attended event of the convention because of a continual relationship. Let's give Jackie another big hand, shall we? Thank you, Ms. Jackie. I'll make a couple of announcements. One is that later today we have our athletic banquet tonight. We're fighting to keep our history being buried. All these athletes now make all these millions of dollars playing ball, but the guy who made it possible paid a big price. He sacrificed his career, Kurt Flood. He said, "You can't sell me." He was 30th Amendment. It's all of them. They think it's because they shot the ball. It's because he sacrificed his life. When Will Chamberlain came out of college and had not, and then he couldn't go to the NBA. He had to go to the Harlem Globetrotters because the rule was you couldn't play until your class graduated. And Spencer Haywood broke that up. He'll be here tonight. And so all those kids who go and play 1 year and they're so good they make the pros, somehow, some way, somebody pays the price. Tomorrow is our business breakfast. Tomorrow morning in this room, Mayor from South Bend, Mayor Pete will be our speaker, and also we'll have with us the fourth-ranking Democrat, Jim Clyburn from South Carolina will be with us. At noontime, we'll have our minister's luncheon, and Bernie Sanders will speak at that time. I want right now to, because of our time, who are the waiters? Why don't you give them a big hand as they come across? Recognize the waiters. Recognize the waiters. Recognize the waiters. On your feet, recognize the waiters. On your feet, recognize the waiters. Some of us have been there, recognize the waiters. Real big hand for them. A real big hand. And one of them waste some coffee on you, we apologize in advance. Let me make these observations as the waiters bring out our food now. Kind of why we're here. One, right now, so number one, the right to vote is being challenged and undercut today. Two, something called temporary workers. People work up to the point of getting a job full time, they're laid off and rehired the next week. Temporary workers. That's a scam. We're going to break it up. We have a team of ministers led by Will Hall in El Paso, Texas. We're going to mobilize on the border. We mobilize 5,000 diapers and men and women's undergarment, toothbrush. We will not stand by and watch children on the border suffer. We will help those children on the border in Texas. We're fighting to reduce student debt loan, affordable health care, as well as fighting for the joy of this convention. I want the waiters to come out and serve now. I want you guys to have fun and have big fun today. We have some work assignments beyond the luncheon today is the gathering of our family to fight. So we gather. to fight. Teresa Griffin, gospel, come, son, give us a little joy. Look at Teresa's hair. You get it for Teresa.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you, Reverend. You want one song or two? Two? Okay, you good? Yes, sir. Play, baby. Yeah. Y'all can't see the piano player. He here somewhere. Ladies, Shirley Horn. No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets. But I have learned that all you give is all you get. So give it all you've got. I've had my share. I drank my fill. And even though I'm satisfied, I'm hungry still to see what's down the road, Lord, beyond the hill, and do it all again. For all of you ceiling breakers, so here's to your life and all the joy it brings. Here's to your life, to dreamers and their dreams. Oh, it's funny how time just flies, how love just goes from a warm hello to a sad goodbye, and leave you with the memories you've memorized to keep your winters warm. For there is no yes in yesterday, and who knows what tomorrow brings or takes away. As long as we are in this game, oh, we're gonna play for laugh, for life, for love. So Miss J, here's to your life and all the joy it brings. Yes, to your life, and I admire you forever, for dreamers and their dreams. May all your storms be weathered. You ready to fade, baby? And all that's good get better. Here's to your life. Here's to your love. To you. There you go. Flip to the next one. I'm trying to help them stay on schedule. Turn it up, precious. you go. Turn it up now. I want to leave you up. I hope you never lose your sense of wonder. You get the feel to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I pray you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. Whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. Promise me you'll give fate a fighting chance, ladies. And if you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you'll dance. I hope you'll dance. I pray you never feel those mountains in the distance. You always settle for the path of least resistance. Living might mean making mistakes, but they're worth making. Love might mean a little hurt, but it's worth taking. Don't let some hell-bent heart leave you bitter. If you come close to selling out, please reconsider. Give the heavens above more than a single glance. And if you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you'll dance. I hope you'll dance. Ladies, come on, put your hands together. Hey, I hope you'll dance. That fork ain't going nowhere. Come on. Give yourself that. Hey, I hope you'll never feel those mountains in the distance. You never settle for the path of least resistance. Give the heavens above more than a single glance. And if you get the choice to sit it out, said something there, or dance, I was gonna come to you. I hope you'll dance. Hey, I hope you dance. I hate being constrained. Hey, I hope you dance. Come on, baby, dance, dance. Don't you know that time is just a wheel? But come on, baby, dance, baby. Rolling on, it's gonna roll you alone. But tell me who's gonna look back on your chance and one day, baby. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead and dance. I've watched you all my life, and I say dance. I can make it back up there. Stop that, baby.
Give me some. Okay. Let's give it up again for Teresa Griffin. See how she coming up and down on the stage in her Louboutins, no doubt. Okay? That's a bad sister right there. But I love her choices of songs. Because here's to life. What else do you have? What's the other option? And while you're here, you might as well dance if you got a chance to do that instead of sitting it out. That's how we got here today. We chose not to sit it out. We chose to dance. And that's how we get here. That powerful video was extraordinary. And I got very emotional watching it. Being from the south side of Chicago, going all the way to the #1 TV station in Chicago. I saw Michelle Obama on that video from the South Shore neighborhood. My uncle, Thomas Burton, was her teacher in 8th grade. And she went to the greatest address in the country, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That started right here in this city, Chicago, where Operation Push started. Dreams began in this great city. And we're so thankful we're a part to visualize it, to see it, and to celebrate it. While you guys are eating, we want to have a little fun. We've been talking about hidden figures. Shirley Chisholm, one of them, the first woman to run for president. Yeah, Shirley Chisholm, she was in the video. And one of her sayings that I always say is, if you don't get invited to a seat to the table, then bring your folding chair. Did you hear me? If they don't invite you to a seat to the table, bring your folding chair so your voice can be heard. So everybody needs to select a team captain at their table because we got a game we're going to play. It's a fact sheet. And you guys should work on that throughout the afternoon. And in the end, the person who gets everything right will get a prize. You cannot Google, according to Mrs. Jackson. You cannot Google, not allowed. The millennials are like, what do you mean? Well, she is one of the co-chairs of today's wondrous events, and she is one of our iconic political figures for a very long time here in Chicago. She is the Honorable Dorothy Brown, the clerk of the Circuit Court of the Cook County. She's going to come up here and recognize some of the sponsors. Welcome her.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good afternoon, everyone. I am elated to be here, and I want to thank Mrs. Jackson personally for permitting me to be one of her co-chairs this year, and certainly, Reverend, thank you as well for permitting me to work with this Rainbow Push Convention. It has been a joy to work with some wonderful ladies and making sure that this lunch has been a success. I would like to recognize our sponsors. We have some great sponsors, and we have some VIP table sponsors, and we also have sponsors that actually provided various things for us. And I'll give you a little bit more information on the hidden figures and also the registration cards that are on your tables. Of course, ABC 7 Chicago, Allstate, Aramark. You can actually look right under, it says VIP table sponsors. One person that is not there is Mrs. Patricia McCrary. She is also one of our VIP sponsors as well. But I'd like to acknowledge Coca-Cola Bottling Company, because if you look in the middle of your table, and they do this every year, the beautiful flowers in the middle of your tables, they were donated by Coca-Cola Bottling Company. Give them a big round of applause. And then, of course, for our hidden figures and or our registration, for you registering today, and if you look in the middle of your table, there are some cards for you to put your name, cell phone, and email address. If you complete that card in its entirety, then you will go in the drawing for one of our prizes that we have here today, Hyatt Regency Chicago 2-night stay. Essential Elements, and many of you ladies know where Essential Elements is and the kind of clothing that they have. They have provided us with some items, but you can only go into the drawing if your card is completed in its entirety. The name, cell phone number, and email address. So if you don't have cards in the middle of your table, let us know and we'll get those to you. If everyone can kind of get that done, that's going to be at the end of the program. Peggy Montez is going to come and do that, so we need you to do that as well. Now, let me also say with the Hidden Figures game, we need you to get the Hidden Figures game completed. And Ms. Donna Leaks is going to come later and handle that. But we need you to get that completed, and we need you to score it. When she reads the answers, we're going to do the honor system, because we know we have a lot of honest people in the room, right? We're going to let you score your own papers, according to Ms. Jackson. We're not going to even let you switch tables. Ms. Jackson, why don't we at least let them switch tables? You don't want them to switch tables? We won't do you like they do in elementary school, let your fellow neighbor grade your paper. But you're going to have, it will be by the honor system. So we need you to take care of that. Now, I'd like to recognize all the pastors in the room. Do we have pastors here? Would you stand, please? Do we have any pastors in the room? Would you stand, please? Give our pastors a big round of applause. Do we have any first ladies in the room? First ladies, would you stand, please? I'd like to recognize our African delegation. We have 3 tables. Would you all stand, please? Our African delegation that's here with us today. They have come a long way. Thank you all so very much for being here with us. Uganda, all the way from Uganda. Thank you all so very much for being here. And now, one of our sponsors is going to say a few words, and she's all the way from Atlanta. And we really appreciate her and Coca-Cola Bottling Company for providing us with the centerpieces. That's none other than the Vice President of Community and Stakeholders Relations for Coca-Cola, Ms. Alba Castillo Balin. Give her a hand.
Thank you, Honorable Dorothy Brown, and good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Coca-Cola Company, my colleagues here today and across North America, I tell you that we're very proud to partner with Rainbow Push in your mission of striving peace and justice. And we're thrilled to be here today because it's such a memorable moment as we give honor to high achievers and ceiling breakers that are making such an impact in our communities. We appreciate your creativity, Mrs. Jackson, because this luncheon is phenomenal and you've been leading this for a while, and your vision, Reverend Jesse Jackson, for the powerful experience of the entire convention. I am honored to congratulate all the honorees at today's luncheon for your contributions at all levels of government and throughout outstanding initiative in STEM and service which have been pioneered by Rainbow Push. Coca-Cola joins Rainbow Push in a long-standing tradition to support our communities and to make sure that we're always working together to create a better future. I also wanted to share, especially in the topic of breaking the ceiling, that 85 years ago, Coca-Cola was the first publicly traded company to invite a woman to our board of directors. Thank you. And 9 years ago, we launched our 5x20 initiative to empower 5 million women to advance their economics around the world. Today, 33.5 million of women in 75 countries have been benefit. We have been working very closely to open pathways so that they can have the tools and resources to achieve their economic freedom. And next year, being 2020, we'll hit that goal. So we're very excited to share that with you. And we are immensely grateful to partner with organizations like yours because we both strive to have a better future and to work together so that everyone has opportunity. Thank you so much. We are thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much. Or muchas gracias. It's at this time we're going to celebrate our honorees for the afternoon. But first, come on up here, my friends. Your dad told me you have to come up. Everybody welcome one of the wonderful kids that Mr. and Mrs. Jackson have raised, these extraordinary children. I love you so much. Jonathan Jackson, everybody.
Thank you for your continued support, Cheryl, over all of these years. Good afternoon, Rainbow Push. Hello. I am excited. This is a wonderful time, and most important, I'm excited about the power that's in this room. Say power. Power. Now, there are many organizations that do many great things, and everybody wants to help the children, everybody wants to mentor someone. All of those are notable, laudable, and great programs. But sometimes you've got to do things that aren't that popular. Sometimes you've got to help the father, you've got to help the mother, you've got to help the family. That's where you'll have a clean heart but dirty hands because you're trying to open doors, kick down barriers to make a difference for other people. We need power. Now, on this stage today are persons that have opened doors. Far too often, people will get into a position of power and will take up the bridge, will remove the ladder, will not throw the rope, never look back. We're honoring people that have continued the tradition of extending and increasing our power. Give that a round of applause. Before I make mention of some great and notable women, and there are so many and we're so proud, there's another man in here that I have to acknowledge. Besides my father, the great Reverend Jesse Jackson, it's been 400 years of Africans in the America, from 1619 to 2019. We are blessed to live in the great state of Illinois, where we have an African-American man on the Supreme Court in Justice Neville. Justice Neville, why don't you shake your hand? That's big stuff, ladies. Can you believe in the history of America, not one African-American woman has been interviewed to be on the Supreme Court of the United States? And you wonder what's wrong with this country. In 400 years. But let me tell you, it's been 400 years, and look at the hole we've come from to the heights we've ascended to. This is the 100th year anniversary of the Red Summer that happened right here in the city of Chicago. On July 27th, let us remember our history. A young African-American child was swimming on the lakefront around 25th to 29th Street, crossed an imaginary line where he was stoned to death, and a riot ensued. African-Americans in 1916, 17, and 18 were coming out of the South with skills, and they came up against immigrants that feared our labor force. We still have those same frictions in the union and labor force today. We've got to fight for power for the whole family. In conclusion, we honor Reverend Martin Luther King in his 90th birthday year. We're not ashamed to mention Reverend Martin Luther King's name all year long. I want to thank my father for having been planted in Chicago, been put on an economic mission by Reverend Martin Luther King, and for 53 years, he's never stopped. I want to thank my mother, Mrs. Jacqueline Jackson, having been there every step of the way, who believed in this women's force and this women's movement. Thank you, Mom, for your tireless contribution, your dedication, and your life's work. In this 50th year of Shirley Chisholm, our children have to know these names. I know I'm putting some people to sleep because you're about to put me to sleep. I'm only going over this out of love, brothers and sisters, because if we don't mention these names, who will? Just the other week, Dad, it was the 10th year anniversary of Michael Jackson's death, and you didn't hear one song of his on the radio. And pretty soon it looks like we did nothing. But let me tell you, in Faneuil Hall in Boston now, there's a slave marker going up showing where our people were bought and sold. There's a marker going up in New York City showing where we were courageous, where we were bought and sold. There's a marker going up to remember our history in Camden, New Jersey, so that we don't forget. We thank God for Brian Stevenson at the Lynching Museum in Montgomery for teaching us about our history. We're not going to be ashamed. From the history, we can go forward. Without the history, we can do nothing. We thank God for the reparations hearing and committee and the work of John Conyers. We thank God for Miss Maxine Waters for having stood up to reclaim my time. So it's not about us getting the first and being the only. I salute these women that are now going to be honorees for pushing things forward. I want to see and congratulate the women, the corporate women that come here that bring resources to keep the doors for this organization open. Some people are afraid to be seen next to power. Some people go behind these powerful corridors and say, I've got to bring something back to my people. I salute you because you want the power. It's been too long in the name of Sojourner Truth and Mary McLeod Bethune and Miss Ida B. Wells. We will not forget those that fought and bled and died. They may be gone, but their spirit lives on and marches with us. It is my privilege to introduce my father, the Right Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson.
Some of the women we're honoring today are the mayors are meeting in Honolulu, Hawaii today, so some of them are not here. Maxine Waters is called doing her work in Washington where she should be. But we want to honor those that we agreed to honor who are present. Before I go, let me say first, the chairman of the Cook County organization, Chairman Tony Prairie. Tony, won't you stand? Give her a big hand. Where's Tony? Where's Tony? Give her a big hand. I wanted to get up on the stage. She's trying to be cool laying back there. A big hand for Tony Prairie, please. She's our chairman, and she's running again. We support, say Tony is running again. We're running with her. Give her a big hand, Tony.
Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tony Preckwinkle. I served in the City Council and in Chicago for 19 years, and for the last 9 years I've served as President of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, the first African American woman to be elected to that position. And I want to acknowledge my predecessor, who served out the term of President John Stroger, President Bobby Steele, who I know is in the back there. Please give her a round of applause. She was the first woman, the first African-American woman to be president of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, and I was the first to be elected. I want to thank Reverend Jackson and Rainbow Push and the Citizen Education Fund for its commitment to combating racism and sexism and increasing economic opportunity in every community around the country and ensuring the protection of all of our citizens under the law. We have lots of challenges in this country, and we need to remember that as our country is increasingly divided, that we need to stand together. Those of us who believe that it's important to acknowledge and fight racism, those who believe it's important to acknowledge and fight sexism. These are principles to which we need to be committed. I know the International Convention is now in its 48th year. I want to congratulate and commend Operation Push, Jesse Jackson, all of the staff members who put this conference together. I know that it's an inspiring and meaningful experience for all of you who are here. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address you.
For honorees, we're having a working lunch. President of the National Organization of Black Elected Women, Noble, Minority Leader, Tennessee House of Representatives, Tennessee 87th District, Karen Camper. Karen, give her a hand, please, as we honor her. Come get your award, Karen. Where's Jan Camps? Memphis, Tennessee, Karen Camper. Karen?
Praise the Lord, everybody. I am so honored to be here with you all. I bring you greetings from the great state of Tennessee. And I am so honored to be here with the great Reverend Jesse Jackson. I really appreciate this award. I was so excited to know that I would be someone that they would consider honoring. And when we're doing our hard work and we're just working, we're not looking for any grandiose receptions or any grandiose awards, but God has been good to me. And I'm honored today that my father, who lives in Chicago, is here with me. My stepmom is here with me, my sister, my son, and my niece. Thank you, Reverend Jackson. Thank you, Ms. Jackson, for considering me. To God be the glory.
Just pick up an award. Young man, just bring the bass. A little story about this award. For years, we've been trying to find an appropriate award for women. Tea is the second most consumed beverage in the world. Teapots have followed the Silk Road from ancient times, and we thought the most appropriate thing for this event would be symbolic, the symbolism would be the teapot. Tea has been very critical for our movement. Men, once upon a time, did not want women to assemble, but women chose to assemble under the guise of having tea. And it was through tea that the suffrage movement was made successful. It was through tea that the abolition movement was able to form and meet, and it was through tea that we were able to assemble in the South for the freedom movement and the abolition of slavery. And I'm very happy that we found a Satsuma teapot made in Japan, and all of their pots were made with lovely women on the front and back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, this may not be yours, but and the tea bag is a Lipton bag that we used in the South.
Outstanding Sister Beloved, you know, please be quiet. Not long ago, Karen Mosby in Baltimore upset the order when a black man walked on a truck on a police wagon, or then came out dead. She challenged the police. They've been on her back ever since. In our city, Laquan McDonald was shot 16 times. They held the tape 400 days over an election season because it was embarrassing. Paid the family $5 million in hush money. That didn't work. Finally, the story began to break. I really want to thank The first time in 50 years, a policeman was convicted for killing a civilian. A woman who now stood tall to transform and reform the state's attorney's office. Give her a big, I want you to let the people know that we support her in her struggle representing the best. Kim Fox, give it up for Kim Fox. Put your hands together, on your feet. Show your love, sisters, on your feet for Kim. Show your love for Kim Fox. It's a big deal to us.
We're going to use one here. Put that. Now don't break it. You just, Reverend, here.
Let me help.
You do it. Okay. All right. Oh, thank you.
Okay, very quickly. Thank you, Reverend and Mrs. Jackson, for this honor. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to serve as the first African American woman elected to the Cook County State's Attorney's Office. As thrilling as that is, it's also as thrilling to come to that role from the projects of Cabrini to this stage, bringing with me the experiences and the stories of those who have been left behind or who have been disadvantaged by our criminal justice system that has been fundamentally broken. This has been the honor of a lifetime to work tirelessly, to transform this criminal justice system in my hometown. I thank Operation Push for its steadfast commitment to these issues long before I even was born, to push for justice and equity for all. So this is a profound honor. Thank you very, very much.
A state rep of substance just got a big piece of legislation passed. Again, a hand for Toy Hutchison. State Rep Toy Hutchison. Toy? Give Toy a big hand, please. Each week at our meeting on Saturday mornings, a child from 4 to 12 introduces me to speak, or the guest speaker for today. Judge Sandra Hill organized these children to get their STEAM through speaking. There's nothing else like an American oratorical genius of Judge Stanley Hill. Please come forward. We honor a man on Women's Day, Judge Stanley Hill. Judge Stanley Hill. Tell John Mitchell to send the piano in now.
And did you tell them that it's an exception that we are honoring 2 men this time? Okay. Because they worked without children. Did you say it, Reverend?
Yeah. Also, Professor Martin Peters. Professor Peters teaches our children STEM and science. Professor Martin Peters, won't you come One and two men because they work closely with our children every day. Judge Sandy Hill and Dr. Martin Peters. Martin Peters, where are you? Pamela and Bruce, please come forward, please.
Hurry.
Todd Uri, please, Todd Uri. We chose to do a kind of work and lunch for time, but let me now, you should have finished eating by now. In 1988, we were running for the presidency, trying to open doors and break down barriers and change all the things. One of the strongest supporters we had in New York City was Mayor de Blasio, who then worked on the staff of about to become Mayor David Dinkins. His wife is a speaker in her own right, but he is running for the presidency now. He's running as the urban mayor in the mix of things and put on a command performance the other night. Mayor de Blasio, I want you to come forward as mayor and bring on our keynote speaker. A hand for Mayor de Blasio. On your feet, Mayor de Blasio, New York City.
Good afternoon, everybody. Come on, wake up, everybody. Good afternoon. There we go. I am so honored to be with you because this is a room full of change agents, a room full of people who have the power to make change. Am I right? I said, am I right? This organization for decades has stood as a voice of truth in our nation. And what Reverend Jackson has done, and I want to say it very, very clearly, Jesse Jackson changed the discussion in this country. He changed what was possible in this country, and every day he continues to change what is possible in this country. Let us thank Reverend Jackson for all he has done for all of us. You notice that the things he was saying in 1984 and 1988 are suddenly becoming very fashionable. I know for a fact I was a young man just finishing college, and I am proud to say I was a very energetic volunteer on the 1984 Jesse Jackson campaign, the original campaign. And I watched in awe as the rules of the game changed. And everything that we've been achieving since then was because he kicked open the door. And this organization continues that work, and it is so important. I am here today before you as the mayor of the nation's largest city. And I am here before you as a presidential candidate. But I want to speak to you first and foremost as a husband and as a father. Some of you may have seen today that our beloved son Dante wrote an op-ed in USA Today. And Dante wanted to explain, as a 21-year-old African-American man, he wanted to explain what he had experienced. I referred to it Wednesday night in the debate, but he wanted to put it into his own words. And what Dante talked about is something that I imagine everyone in this room understands, but somehow has not been allowable in our American public discussion. That millions upon millions of parents of children of color, particularly young men of color, have had to have a conversation as those young men were growing up, to educate them, to prepare them for what they would face ahead. And I want to say, I think if every white American parent had to have the same conversation with their white children, they would feel just as all of us who have had to do that would feel. Because the truth is, every parent thinks first and foremost about the safety of their child, don't they? We come into this world, and when we have the blessing of having our own children, we think every day about their safety. But if you happen to have a son of color in America, you have to think differently. And why should we not say that out loud? Because it's true, and it's been true for a long time in America, hasn't it? I talked about this a few years ago for the first time, and I heard many expressions of shock and dismay. And I said, we just have to have an honest conversation in this country. That's how we move forward. Because my son wrote today about the fear he felt. And we did not try and teach him fear. We tried to teach him caution. We tried to teach him understanding. We tried to teach him that if he was careful, if he remembered the rules, everything would be okay. But of course, the young person hears that, and they also feel fear. And they've seen too many tragedies that give them a reason to feel fear. What we all need to work for is the day where there is no longer that fear in this nation. It doesn't have to be that way, does it? But we won't change it unless we talk about it honestly and openly. Now, I will tell you, in New York, we are doing things to change that reality. Because the country we want to aspire to is one where a police officer is walking down the street and sees a young man of color coming toward him. And that police officer thinks that young man might as well be my cousin or my son or my nephew. And I'm going to take care of him. I'm going to protect him. And I want the day in this nation where the young man sees an officer approaching and knows in his heart that that officer understands him, that that officer could be his father or his uncle. It can be done. In New York City today, we have a vision of neighborhood policing where we are helping everyone to work together, to understand each other, to actually know each other on a first-name basis, to understand what it feels like to be on the same side. To do that, we had to weed out the sins of the past. We had to institute implicit bias training. We had to teach our whole police force to de-escalate in moments of conflict. You can teach de-escalation, because for too long we taught escalation in this country. We ended a broken policy of stop and frisk that was causing tension between police and community, but even worse, was treating our young men of color like they were suspects to a crime they never committed. And when we got rid of those vestiges of the past, people started talking to each other. Communication began. We got safer. Every time we said we were going to make another change, the naysayers said, if you do that, there'll be chaos. If you do that, there'll be crime. But as we made more and more changes, 5 years in a row, we have gotten safer every single year. I want you to hear this particular statistic. I told it to your new mayor, and I'm so proud of Chicago for electing Lori Lightfoot. I congratulate you. I was speaking to her on the phone, and I told her this fact, and she paused for a moment, and she said, I just need to take that in because that's amazing. I told her last year in 2018 in New York City, there were 150,000 fewer arrests than 5 years earlier. 150,000 fewer arrests, and we got safer. If you want to end mass incarceration, don't arrest people to begin with who don't need to be arrested. And we are ending mass incarceration in New York City. Our jail population is down 30%, and it's going to go down a lot more. Everything I'm telling you, these are not position papers. These are not ideas that I read in a book. These are things happening in the nation's largest city right now. Right now. And they can happen anywhere. And I'll tell you one more we all need to do together, and I congratulate the state of Illinois for legalizing marijuana and thinking about economic justice and racial justice at the same time. As we legalize marijuana in this country, those who have suffered the injustices need to experience the economic gain. Not the big corporations, but the communities that suffered. And we have a chance all over this country to get it right, to create a whole new industry that is not about corporate America, but is about everyday America and people who deserve a chance for the first time at real economic empowerment. So, I hope that you hear in these examples my strong belief that change can happen. It can happen in Chicago. It is happening in New York. It can happen all over this nation. And this is the time to do it, because people are awake, and they're conscious, and they're ready for change. Are you ready for change? Are you really, really ready for change? There is never going to be a better moment for change than this election and this moment where this country is recognizing its mistakes and is ready to do something about it. Now, I have the honor, because I'm just a warm-up act, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you appreciate when you're in a true partnership. And Shirlane and I am very proud to say a few weeks ago we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary. As Reverend Jackson said, we met in the David Dinkins administration. And by the way, Reverend Jackson, I want to make another historical point. There never would have been a David Dinkins administration but for your 1988 presidential campaign that made it possible. And I always tell the simple story that one day I was at my desk in City Hall. I looked up, a vision of beauty was gliding toward me on angel's wings. I heard violins. I heard a choir singing. I am not kidding you. I experienced love at first sight. And the beautiful and graceful and intelligent Shirlane McCray experienced absolutely nothing. And for weeks, I tried to get her to notice me and finally go out on a date. And I knew very quickly she was the one. And there were so many signs. But I want to tell you about her heart as I introduce her. Because Shirlane McCray is someone who never met a stigma that she felt couldn't be beat. She never met a taboo that she didn't want to take on. She is someone who throughout her life, when she has seen injustice, she's done something about it. And I saw that fire and that passion early on. So when we went into City Hall in New York City, we were partners in everything we do. And we talked about what Shirlane would take on, and she wanted to take on the toughest issue. She wanted to take on the issue that people were not even talking about out loud. She wanted to get rid of that stigma around mental health in our city and in our nation. She believed that if we could have a real, honest conversation about mental health, we could actually start to address it. And everyone, look, this is a participatory gathering. So everyone here today, as you listen to Shirlane, please take what she says and bring it back to your family, to your neighborhood, to your congregation, because we have to break down that stigma once and for all, don't we? Well, what I can tell you is, to make change, it takes audacity. And the love of my life is filled with audacity and hope and spirit, and you are about to hear it for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, the First Lady of New York City, Shirlane McCray.
You know, my husband tells that story of how we met, how he heard the chorus of angels, and I just heard street traffic. Well, he's right. He's right. It wasn't instantaneous for me. He had to win me over. But boy, did he ever. He won me over with his sincerity, his persistence, his warmth. He won me over with his goofiness. And most of all, he won me over with his principles. I have never met a man more dedicated to public service, more committed to doing work for other people, no matter who they are, where they live, what their religion, what their belief is. This is a man who believes that public service is the way to live. So please, let's show him some more warmth. Now, I may be biased, but if that's not what we need in a president, what is? Right? What is? I hope you get to know him better over these next months, a lot better, because if you do, I think you're going to love him too. Not as much as me, but remember, I saw him first. All right? Moving on. Good afternoon, sisters. How you doing? I got to look at some of your faces while Jesse was speaking and my husband was speaking, and some of you look super happy. And some of you look like, yeah, someone's shaking their head, look super happy. Some of you look a little tired, a little worried, like maybe how long is this gonna go? I don't know what you're thinking, but you know, we all got feelings, and some of us have big feelings, really big feelings, like I did when I was growing up, like I do sometimes today. My parents were hard-working people, working class people who wanted us to have everything that they didn't have. But I gotta tell you, my parents were a little different. They didn't talk to us. And when I say they didn't talk to us, I mean they really didn't talk to us. They were not verbal. Unless they were telling us to do something, there was no conversation. Our meals were silent. Like we'd have breakfast or we'd have dinner and there was no one would say anything, right? Even holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving, there was no conversation. It was quiet, and they were secretive. We weren't allowed to have friends over. And I thought this was normal, right? Because of what I know as this little girl. And we lived in all-white neighborhood most of my life, and so I was the only black child in every single one of my classes from kindergarten to 12th grade. All right, so that was quite an environment that we lived in. And I couldn't bring friends home, so all I knew was that this world in my home that my parents weren't talking to me, and some days I would go to school and get out and be chased home. One day a girl, she wanted to go get a drink of water in front of me, so she just took her arm out and punched me in the stomach so hard that I lost my breath completely, couldn't breathe for a long, long time. And I went home and I didn't have anybody to talk to about it. There was nobody to talk to. I was lonely, I was anxious. I didn't know what to do with all those big feelings I had inside of me: anger, frustration, loneliness. And it wasn't until a few years ago when I started working on mental health that I realized that both my parents probably suffered from depression. And that other PTSD, you've heard about that, right? Post-traumatic slave disorder. Yeah, right? My parents had learned how to survive in a hostile environment. They had learned how to adapt. They had learned how to cope. But as a byproduct of that, they lost some things too. They lost this ability to engage with people emotionally. They didn't know how to do that with us. They lost this ability to have these social skills that they could pass on to us, to help us in our lives. They live with a deep-seated sadness. And children feel everything. I know they wanted to protect us. I know they wanted what was best for us. But they kept all this inside, and I could feel it. My siblings could feel it. And of course, that had long-lasting consequences for us. Now, when I started working on mental health, I was really astonished to learn how common diseases like depression and anxiety are. That 1 in 5 people have a diagnosable mental health condition in any given year. Now, even here, how many of you know someone, or have you been affected yourselves by a mental illness or addiction or substance misuse? Can you raise your hand? How many of you have been touched by mental illness or addiction or substance misuse? Now look around. Look at the hands that are up. I should say, look at the hands that are not up. Because every single hand should be up in the air. We are all touched by this. If your hand's not up, you probably don't know your friends or your friends or your family as well as you think you do. Am I right? Either that, or perhaps the people around you don't feel comfortable talking about what they're going through, don't feel comfortable reaching out and talking to you about what they're going through, because we are all touched by this in one way or another. You can't have a whole family and friends and a community and there not be somebody who's suffering. It's just not possible, not with these statistics. And the statistics are higher in our communities. That stigma is a powerful force. It is so strong that here we are in 2019, still not able to talk about this in a very open way, in a public way, in an honest way. It's terrible because all of these diseases are treatable. Every single one, treatable. Some of them are preventable. But people don't get the treatment they need. They wait. You know how long they wait? What do you think? A year? How many people think people wait a year? What's the average? How many people think people wait 3 years? Put your hand up. How many people think people wait 5 years? Put your hand up. All right. The average is 10 years. People wait 10 years on average before seeking help for a mental health condition. And what happens when sick people don't go to the doctor? Do they get better? No. They get worse. They get worse. And we have so many people who are in crisis today because they didn't get the care when they needed it. All right? And that's what we see in our society right now. We see a whole lot of people in crisis. It is so unnecessary. Our country's largest provider of psychiatric care are our jails. Our emergency rooms are overwhelmed by alcohol-related visits. And too many people end up living on the streets. These are people's children. These are our children. These are our parents, our neighbors, our friends. And it is unnecessary. Now that's why I created Thrive NYC. It's our citywide approach to mental health, to promote wellness, and to make sure people are getting the care they need wherever they live, wherever they go to school, wherever they work, because we need services where people are. We don't want to ask people to go someplace else. We don't want to do that. We want people to have services where they are. And one of our goals is to act early, not only to prevent illness and intervene at the first sign of disease, but to provide more children with a strong social-emotional foundation to promote resilience. We can do this. We have educators in our pre-K classrooms right now who are already emphasizing social-emotional learning to help our youngest children. And the plan is for us to have social-emotional and restorative justice curriculums from pre-K all the way through high school, starting in the fall. By building this kind of foundation early, children develop stronger communication skills, decision-making, problem-solving abilities, lifelong skills that we all need every day. Students, when they have these skills, they're better learners. They're better able to manage stress and less likely to struggle with drug use. They develop more positive attitudes. They have better behavior in school, and their academic performance improves as well. That's what Thrive is all about. We want people to deal with some of those big feelings that we all have before they become a crisis. Now, I wish we had this when I was a child. I really do. How many of you wish you had this when you were a kid? Put your hand up. Put your hand up, right? You know, it would have saved so much agony, so many tragedies, so much distress, because we can teach these skills. And this is not just a New York City problem, so we can't just have a New York City solution. We need a national movement, and that is about neighbors taking care of neighbors and sisters taking care of sisters. So that's why we partnered with the Divine Nine. Do we have any of you all in here? Divine Nine? I hear you. I hear you. So we partnered with the Divine Nine to get them to work with their sisters and brothers in New York City to get their members and family members into this mental health first aid course so that they get to understand the signs and symptoms of mental illness, what to do, how to connect people to care. And I want to thank them because, you know, we've trained more than 20,000 people because of their help. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We need partners in this work. We can't do this work alone. Everyone can be part of the solution. How many of you are teachers? Raise your hands. Yes, teachers, nurses. How many of you are nurses? How many of you are journalists or business people? Raise your hands. Okay, we got a little bit of everyone in here. You all have a role to play, whether it's in the workplace or in the school or with your organization that you belong to. We all have a role to play. That's why this year in May, every year in May, we bring together faith and community leaders all across the country to fight stigma and educate their communities about mental health. It's called the Thrive Weekend of Faith, because we trust our faith leaders, right? We trust them. And we get them talking about mental illness and substance misuse and addiction, and people listen to them. So we're doing that every year because they are the very best of partners, let me tell you, because they see everybody and they see everything. And I know that we can do more if we're all in this together. I know you're asked to do a lot, a whole lot. People want you to run for office, start a business, raise money. You know, they want you to do everything, but that's all great, but you can't do any of those things if you are not well. Do you hear me? You cannot do anything if you are not well. My father used to say, he didn't talk a lot, so when he talked, I paid attention. And he used to say, if you have your health, you have everything. The world is full of possibilities. You can do almost anything you want if you have your health. Well, I've added a line to that. There is no health without mental health, right? When you gotta have your health, but you gotta have mental health too. So I want you to please take the hand of a sister next to you. Take the hand of a sister next to you right now. I want you to say something. I want you to say out loud to her that you're going to take care of yourself this year. Say, that's right. I'm going to take care of myself this year. And then I want you to say to her, and I want you to take care of yourself too. Very good. I want you to do that every day with somebody. Can you do that? Do that every day. Remember, nobody cares as much about us as we do, right? Nobody. Thank you all for all you do. Keep it up. Keep it up. I love you.
Friends, I want you to prepare now. Give Sister McCurry her award. Audrey Du Bois Harris, we met her really 2 years ago. Aretha Franklin was to sing for us at our convention 2 years ago. Aretha couldn't make it and sent to us an opera singer. We thought Aretha had lost her mind. When she sang, we knew it, and the world knows it even better now. Brother Darius Brooks and her last night did an outstanding concert at Apostolic Church. I want to apologize for two things. Now, one, when Santita sang Friday at the Union Hall, we did not have the piano in place we should have for all occasions. Not today. And so, as opposed to having the grand piano, which she deserves, Darius Brooks is doing the electric piano, which he knows how to play. I want to announce before she comes, Reverend Clay Evans was 94 years old last week. A big hand for Reverend Clay Evans. Darius Brooks, Audrey Du Bois Harris. Audrey, come forward with our closing selections. Give her a big hand, please.
There be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow to take each moment and live each moment in peace Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. To take each moment and live each moment in peace with you and you and you and me
Are you up for one more? Rev said he wants one more. So we'll do total praise. Rev has requested total praise. If there are singers in the house, will you help me with the chorus? Lord, I will lift
your feet, we're getting ready to go.